Let's get things started. This hand of mine glows with an awesome power.
Greetings, one and all, to this first episode of an experimental podcast that I don't know what we're necessarily going to call it, aside from like Drak's Anime Club or something like that. Because here's the bottom line. The purpose of this podcast is to take a series, in this case, an anime series, and dissect the episodes, dissect the characters, be able to give our analysis, give our thoughts on what this series is, what we think of it. And the other purpose of it is to bring in a host that's probably blind to the series to get a whole new perspective. So I am your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drak. I hope everybody's having an awesome day. And with me is my wife, Andrea, who is basically the person walking in blind to this series. Andrea, how are you doing?
I am doing just fine, Drak.
It's been a while since we've heard you since the Why We Geek podcast, which is getting kind of retooled right now.
Yeah.
So at that point, let's get right into this. We are, by fan request, we are taking on the series Mobile Fighter G Gundam. And one thing I want to get into just really fast is this is your first ever Gundam series. Because we look back on it and you really haven't seen any other Mobile Suit Gundam series.
Nope.
Aside from little snippets like, going down to get a drink and I'm watching it kind of thing. So that being said, what did you think of Gundam before walking into this? And it's okay. You can be honest about it. Like, you could say it's stupid or whatever.
I'm not going to say it was stupid. I'm just like, am I going to get into a lot of these robot things? I mean, the only thing I had exposure
yes, you're married to me.
I know. I only had exposure to Transformers, but that was it.
Yeah. And here's the thing, too, that to keep in mind is that, when we were growing up, Star Trek was a thing. And Gundam is technically considered to be the Japanese equivalent to Star Trek.
Oh, really?
Because Star Trek, I don't believe, does very well in Japan, but Gundam has had as long a lasting influence as probably Trek has in the States. So it's cool that we occasionally get some of these series. We don't have access to the full one unless you're willing to do subtitles. So already you're worried. Basically, you're saying you're worried about getting infected by the giant robot genre. Like you're going to get its cooties.
No, I don't think that. I think it's just like, hopefully I will be able to stay interested in it.
Mm-hmm. We should also probably point out, this is a completely casual kind of point of view. I know other podcasts, like they will have people on who have are good writing or good writers, things like that. You're a nurse. So at that point, I would say that you come up with some good story ideas. That's not really your forte. That's not really a hobby for you.
Not really.
So this is raw opinion from you. This is what you're getting watching the episodes. So with that, let's go ahead and get into the synopsis of Mobile Fighter G Gundam, just in case nobody has ever seen it. So this is not a lot of the. I should point out this really quick. A lot of the Gundam series are based in a timeline called the Universal Century. There are a lot of series that are tied into that timeline. This is not one of them. This is actually an example of when they were experimenting with alternate timelines that aren't necessarily connected to each other or to the Universal Century. They are their own standalone series, which, funniest thing, those kinds of series actually do better in the US than, from what I understand, the Universal Century does. There is a hardcore Universal Century audience here, but it's not necessarily as big as, say, Gundam Wing or G Gundam or 00, things like that. So we should point out this is an alternate timeline. You don't have to walk into Gundam knowing all the stuff about Amuro Ray or Char Aznable. This is something that you can just walk into fresh. And so in the future century, humans have ruined the Earth. Oh noes. Much of mankind has abandoned Earth for space colonies, which is pretty much a lot of what other Gundam series are about, with each country on Earth having a corresponding space colony. So that's a lot of space colonies, each country. What happens when, because this was in the 90s, right? How many countries have since died since then. So like Czechoslovakia is no longer. So if there's a Czechoslovakia colony, did they have to cut it in half so that you could have Czech Republic colony and Slovakia? I don't think they thought about that, but it's one of those things that it makes me kind of giggle. Is like how many of these countries, like the colony of Neo-Yugoslavia, does that even exist anymore? Is it just done?
Who knows how they
didn't think
divided.
about this, but that's one of the things that makes me giggle the most about it. So corresponding space colony. Instead of having wars, a Gundam fight is held every 4 years, where a representative will pilot a mobile fight or basically a Gundam from that nation and compete with other Gundams until only one. They will fight and continue fighting until only one is left, and the one that is the one that wins, the country that it represents now rules all of space and the Earth for 4 years. So, wow, this is a really interesting take on a presidential election, isn't it?
Yeah, and
let's get into that for a second. Man, don't you wish that U.S. elections would be handled this way?
You probably wish that everything was worked like this or something.
Well, it means you'd probably get like President Brock Lesnar. Actually, you know what? It would guarantee The Rock. It would like The Rock would get back into wrestling just so that he could win the presidency. That's exactly what would happen there. So yeah, the premise of it, Andrea, like, given what you have heard, what's your thought?
Man, I would say, like, how many people who have watched this show and be like, from wherever you live in, like, either in the States or in China or in Japan or
China wouldn't have an electoral process, so.
Well, yeah, but you'd be like, how come the main protagonist of this story, you know, be the one that is going to be the one that's going to win all these battles? And you're like, oh, man.
It's kind of a giveaway, isn't it? Like, you know your main character's going to win, right?
Yeah.
So at that point, it's like, okay, well, this is given, you know?
Well, yeah, but then you're like, well, I'm from America, so why am I, you know, why am I not the main protagonist?
Basically, what you're saying is you're not understanding why the Iron Sheik has to win. So, like, I'm not from here. I'm a foreigner. I get to rule you all. So there you go. The other thing that I also kind of pointed out is while this series was serious for the Japanese audience, it is based on a lot of stereotypes. So at that point, we had to kind of get Andrea used to that because she doesn't really know all of the Japanese stereotype humor, aside from like a couple of attempts in like Fruits Basket and a few other things like that. So that was also an interesting way. It was basically like trying to introduce you to the Punch-Out series, where, oh, you have the Italian boxer, and it just so happens that he likes pizza, you know? So that being said, let's go ahead and get it. So we've basically, the way that we're going to be doing this is we're going to do a DVD per episode, because I have the whole DVD collection, and we're going to do a DVD per episode. Really quick, my thoughts on G Gundam. Like, I love this series, and the main reason I like it is because of how silly it is. Like, are there serious things that can be taken from G Gundam? Sure, but a lot of it is just hilarious. It's so many Gundam tropes all looped into one. This is basically, to me, this is Build Fighters before Build Fighters, because Build Fighters makes fun of, like, this was making fun of Gundam in the 90s, where, you know, you had some Universal Century, and then you had, I think Gundam Wing came later, so you weren't really making fun of that yet, but Build Fighters makes fun of everything that came before it. And so at that point, it's an even bigger version of G Gundam, because we can make fun of all the stupid stuff they've done. So that being said, I love G Gundam, and this is going to be hilarious for me to see Andrea's reactions to a lot of this stuff. So let's go ahead and get into the episodes. We did episodes 1 through 4 on the first DVD, and we're going to start, we're going to basically go episode by episode on our thoughts of what is happening in the story so far, and also do a little bit of character analysis for the characters that are getting introduced. Okay. So that way people could at least follow this. So episode 1, and this is going to be the other thing that Andrea is going to love, is the episode titles, because wow, Japanese episode titles are lengthy in some cases, especially in the 90s. So episode 1, Gundam Fight Begins, the Gundam that fell to Earth. That is the first episode. And as we know, it takes place, even though it's never explained in the episode, It takes place in Neo Italy. That's another thing people have to get used to, is that there's no regular countries anymore. Since the colonies are named Neo whatever the country is, we're also calling them Neo Italy, Neo America, Neo Russia kind of thing. But by the way, your thoughts on that? Everything's Neo now.
What is this supposed to mean? Like it's all new?
It's basically Japan's concept of like, it's in the future. Ooh.
Oh, brother.
So, because we've seen a couple of other, in fact, the Phoenix Wright series from Capcom makes fun of it, because one of the main characters of it loves a TV show called Silver Samurai, and it just so happens that he is the warrior of Neo Old Tokyo. And so you'll have a lot of anime that have like Neo Tokyo, Old Tokyo, Neo Old Tokyo. Sailor Moon even kind of made fun of it with like, in the States, I believe it was just called Crystal Tokyo in the future. But in Japan, at least from what I've been told, it was Neo Crystal Tokyo.
No.
So like they love the word Neo, basically. So yeah, this episode takes place completely in Neo Italy. And it's basically the start of the Gundam fight. Like the Gundam fight has, for this time around, I think it's the 16th Gundam fight. It's been happening for a while, and technically the Gundam fight hasn't started yet. It starts in this episode. And the basic plot is we follow the main protagonist, Domon Kashu, as he hunts down the Gundam fighter of Neo Italy, Mikkolo Chariot, to not only start the Gundam fight, but also, as we realize throughout all these episodes, Domon has kind of an alternate agenda when it comes to his Gundam fights right now. So first of all, let's get into the characters that get introduced here, and then we'll get into the episode itself. So first of all, Domon Kashu, the main character. A couple of things that we can point out: he is a very powerful martial artist. He is also very hard-headed. Or give me your description of like what you would think of Domon, given what you've seen of him so far.
I think he's just badass all together.
He's just badass all around. All right.
Yeah.
They basically built him to be badass, especially in this episode when you have, 17, 18 people aiming a gun at him and he catches every bullet.
Oh, yeah.
Which, by the way, he never does again.
He only does it once?
Yeah, he only does it once. And that's a great moment, isn't it? Like, he catches all those bullets into his hand, and he gets tons of guns fired at him, and he never does that again.
He's like Batman.
Yeah, you have that one badass moment, and then it never happens again. So, given his attitude, do you have any issues with his attitude so far?
No.
No, he's pretty much what you would expect. He's kind of a Goku character.
Yeah, pretty much.
Although way more hammy, and you'll find that out as we go along. So Domon Kashu is the Gundam fighter of Neo Japan, and since this is a Gundam series, we actually, part of the lure of the series is the mecha. It's the giant robots, and so at that point, when we come across a Gundam fighter, we're also going to be talking about their Gundam, and in this case, it is Neo Japan's Shining Gundam, where I actually tried to tell you, like, a lot of these characters will have Gundams that fit the tropes of their particular nation. Japan doesn't really have it. Aside from the ship that he comes out of is a giant Sakura blossom, but he's basically supposed to be what I'd like to call the RX-78 of the group, where he looks more like, they always have a Gundam that looks like that has traits of the original. And they're always considered part of the RX-78 series because that's what the original one was the RX-78. So there really isn't any tropes in the Shining Gundam for Japan aside from the Sakura blossom. Did you know that was a giant Sakura blossom it comes out of?
I didn't even notice it at first.
You'll notice it a little bit later when we get to see more of the ship. They do a lot in these episodes of like trying to cover it up. But you will actually get to see it, and that's pretty much the only, aside from the samurai swords on the belt, there's not really a whole lot.
Is it the rock that covered the gun?
Yeah.
Oh.
So it has like that molten rock over it, and then he comes out of the ship, and the ship is a giant Sakura blossom.
Okay, I don't know. I just was trying to figure that all out.
So your thoughts on the Shining Gundam? Do you like it? Do you dislike it?
kind of reminds me of Optimus Prime in a way. But,
Okay, you got to explain that one.
I don't know.
How does it remind you of Optimus Prime? I mean, there is red and blue in it.
That's probably where.
Is it the when the mask comes back and you have the face guard on it?
That's probably where.
Okay. Yeah, because here's the thing, like, Shining Gundam is great and all, but it is kind of that stereotypical RX-78 type to me. And so to me, like, I've seen so many of them, just kind of blah. I'm actually not a big fan of the Shining Gundam. I tend to prefer a later Gundam in the series in this one. But yeah, so we have Shining Gundam. We should also point out another character that is relevant to Neo Japan, and that is, even though you've never heard her last name, Rain Mikamura. She is the girl that follows Domon around and is a doctor, but also the mechanic of the Shining Gundam. She is basically his partner on Earth. So for the first thing I want to ask you is, because I asked you when we were watching it, would you be caught dead in the getup that she's wearing? That is like stupid levels of tight.
No, I don't know how someone could breathe in that kind of an outfit.
Much less walk. Yeah, as the series goes on, you're going to start to see some of the other major flaws of that outfit, and it's just so 90s. What do you think about Rain as a character?
Well, she's very compassionate.
Yes, I'll give you that. She's kind of both a wet blanket as well as a throwdown rug. She kind of gets she's kind of whiny, but she also gets walked all over in a lot of these. Like, I mean, if Domon wants to do something and Rain like tries to pose any kind of opposition to him, she's easily taken care of.
Oh yeah,
because like the example will come later. But yeah, Rain. Okay, so you use compassionate. Any other words that you use to describe her?
She just seems like she's like so overbearing.
Yeah, she's a bit of a wet blanket.
Yeah, but that's all I could say for her.
Yeah, that would be the way I'd explain her. She's a wet blanket. She's constantly whining. She doesn't like Domon's methods. And here's the funny thing is, like, so she's supposed to be like the leading female character. So you know that there's probably going to be some kind of a love interest or something like that that's probably going to happen here, or at least you'd assume that given anime. So I will spoil this. Like, she goes through two phases throughout the series. One is the wet blanket phase, where she's totally pissed off at Domon and constantly disagrees with him and all that. And then eventually there's what I like to call the girl power phase, where she actually becomes kind of a strong character in and of her own right. So right now, not really the greatest character in the world, but you kind of have to deal with her in the meantime. She doesn't have a Gundam because she is the mechanic of the Shining Gundam. So at that point, let's go ahead and get into the other major fighter that was in this episode, Miccolo Chariot, the Gundam fighter for Neo Italy. And so this was the leader of the mafia that went and became the Gundam fighter, and also looked like he could have been in a Mad Max biker gang, and also had his silver feet. So, your thoughts on Miccolo?
I'm trying to even think of...
He's like stereotypical bad guy. He really is. Like, let me see if I can bring up an image for you of Miccolo Chariot. Because they kind of point out his backstory of, like, he was the leader of the mafia, and then he won his way into being the Gundam fighter for Neo Italy. Let's see if I could find like a basic image of him. So here is an image of Miccolo Chariot. So that's the guy. So your thoughts on this character?
That guy was weird and
yes, he was kind of stereotypical bad guy.
He kind of reminds me of what's his name that we met in Final Fantasy VII, that guy that you thought was the most annoying guy ever.
Oh, I can't remember his name, but Numbnuts. That's basically what I'm calling it.
That's what the first that came to my mind. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I will say the only good thing that has come out of Miccolo Chariot in that episode is the line of, "You may have those silver feet, but I've got these gold fingers."
Oh my gosh.
I love that. I love that line. It's so stupid.
But he sure seemed like this is a guy who's supposed to.
Why was he a leader of the mafia? He should have just been the leader of a biker gang. He just looked like he was in a biker gang.
I can't imagine if he would have won and he ended up ruling all the other places.
Basically, that would be the true Mad Max ending.
Oh gosh.
So let's get into his Gundam, Nero's Gundam. I will tell you the one major flaw I have with Nero's Gundam. Considering the whole theme of the silver feet and how he kicks he kicks these power blasts and things like that, the Gundam doesn't really reflect that. It's very spiky and military and almost Mad Max. Like it encompasses the Mad Max aspect of him, but considering that there's been so much time and effort put into, he has these amazing kicks, and then he tries to do his amazing kick in the Gundam, and it's just kneeling and shooting guns from the feet. It's just that's kind of stupid.
I mean, it was a cool idea, but it just didn't seem like.
No, it didn't make sense, did it?
No.
It was just kind of dumb, and man, he loved using that to oppress people. He out of nowhere, he puts, what was it? He set up the trap for, because they come across little orphan kids, and he captures a little girl orphan because why not? And then he sets up the orphan, but it's being held by Nero's Gundam. And then as soon as Domon gets close, he's like, "Okay, Nero's Gundam, boom! I'm just gonna go ahead and kill you now."
I'm surprised that his mech did not shoot out some Italian stuff,
Well, that's the funniest part about this whole episode. We're supposed to be in Neo Italy, guys, and as you'll find out in later episodes, we get clear markers of where you're supposed to be in the world. You don't get that at all in Neo Italy. They're specifically supposed to be in Rome. So at that point, you can't see any, everything's destroyed. So you can't really see any Roman architecture discernible. The only way that if you're paying attention that you know that this is Italy is when Domon gets caught by the police, because the police don't like Gundam fighters. When they're getting interrogated, the guy decides to waterboard him with a pizza.
Oh my gosh.
Tell us you're a Gundam fighter. I'm going to dip you in the tomato sauce again. That's the only, because obviously Italy loves spaghetti and lasagna and pizza. So that's the only indicator you have of it being Italy. Nothing about Miccolo tells you that he's Italian at all.
Jeez, I'm so glad he didn't look like Mario or something.
It's just that biker getup with a Mario mustache.
Oh my gosh.
Let's go, Silva Feet. Yeah, that wouldn't work at all. But that's the only way you know that this is Italy. Aside from in the next episode, they do say that Domon took out Neo Italy's Gundam fighter.
Yeah.
So it's oh, so you were in Italy. All right. It would have been great if you had some markers of that. Oh, pizza? But pizza's kind of an American creation. Why? Why is this the way we're supposed to tell it's Italy? If he was waterboarding it with spaghetti, I'd understand, but...
Well, it's a good thing they did not introduce French fries.
Oh, jeez. For France? Because obviously the French made that, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah... This episode was, in order to introduce the Gundam fight, it was pretty epic when the fight actually began, but it has a real, I think you and I both kind of agreed with this. This episode has a very slow pickup. You're basically shown a bunch of destructive architecture, 3 orphans that you're supposed to care about, but you don't really. You don't really even start caring about Domon until he, catches all the bullets. And by the way, we should also point out another character aspect of Domon is the mark on his hand when he caught all the bullets is the logo of the King of Hearts. We don't know what that means, but it actually is a fundamental aspect of Domon's character. So at that point, what did you think about that weird tattoo coming out? And it's supposed to mean something because as soon as it came out, everybody was afraid of him instantly.
Well, it must be some kind of group that he joined or something.
Yeah, they kind of made him out to be he's this elite martial artist kind of thing, but we don't really know anything else about this. We will find out. We will find out what the tattoo means, but it's the dumbest thing to introduce right now, aside from, shonen gimmick kind of thing. It's the equivalent of Yugi transforming into the Pharaoh, and nobody really notices. It's like, okay, fine. He just went through puberty. We don't really know why. So at that point, yeah, there really isn't much else to say on this one. Like I know. Let's rate these episodes out of 5. What would you give this episode, given what it tried to do?
Probably maybe a 3.
I'd actually give it a 2, just because of the slow buildup. I think it pays off later, but it's too much pain to have to go through to get that payoff. So with that, I think we pretty much hit all of the
I think
stuff in
they should
episode
have done
1.
a little bit of a different beginner episode, not going straight into the first fight when it's like,
Yeah,
what the
because everything
heck?
is building up to that first Gundam fight.
I think they should have done more of an introductory sort of thing with the, it's time for this election. Now we might as well,
Yeah, it would have been cool if you had like colony officials going, "It's time, let's send our Gundams out," or something like that.
something like that, instead of going straight, oh, well, the guy from Japan decided I'm going to come
the most
straight
you get is like a 2-minute montage of a bunch of things going to Earth. You think they're meteors, but you don't really know.
I mean, it explains what the whole thing is about, but I think it would have been better to show it rather than go straight, oh, well, here comes...
Yeah, you have the police inspector, the one that waterboarded Domon with a pizza. You have him explain what the Gundam fight is, and I kind of agree with you there. It would have been better to show, not tell. Like have the colony officials go, "It's time, unleash the Gundams," and have that moment, and then maybe you can just kind of point out the fighters are already on Earth, and Mikolo is like excited to start the Gundam fight. So maybe it would have been a better idea for him to be a little bit more in the episode, so that you could have explanations that way. Like, he's just looking to fight Gundams. Okay, why is he looking to fight Gundams?
It'd be just like, you have this ceremony where you're having all the G Gundam fighters, and they're like, okay, let the best man win, and then you get into the start of the fights.
Yep.
Otherwise, it just seems like, okay, we're just getting into a fight. I did not even know why.
I agree. So yeah, 2 out of 5 for me, 3 out of 5 for you. Episode 2, Roar of the Winning Punch. So we go from Neo Italy to Neo America, specifically New York, as Domon is now getting ready to confront the Gundam fighter of Neo America, Chibody Crockett.
At first, I thought it said Jiminy.
Nope, Chibody Crockett. It's literally spelled Chibodee.
Yeah, no.
Chibody. Don't ask me why that name. I know the Crockett part because, like, there's a lot of American stereotypes here. Davy Crockett being one of them with Chibody Crockett's name. So let's get into his character. So he's kind of the American stereotype of from the street success story. He was a punk on the streets who eventually learned how to fight properly, then got an invitation to the colonies, became an elite boxer there, and now is the Gundam fighter for Neo America in the Gundam Maxter. So at that point, like, thoughts on Chibody Crockett?
I never expect him to be a boxer, but
No, especially when you initially look at the Gundam Maxter and the overall football theme that's kind of put into it, you'd think he was like a grappler or something like that.
Jeez, you might as well make him a football player, actually.
Yeah, probably, but no, they went with a boxer. Probably because around the 90s, boxing was very popular in the States, because I think by the time this had come out, like, the Evander Holyfield incident had happened, and Mike Tyson was also a big thing around that time. But yeah, so about his character, like, everything about him is like American success story. It's actually kind of corny in a weird way.
Well, he sure seemed to be more like he thinks like boxing was more important than the G Gundam fighting. And
Well,
stuff.
basically, the premise there is that he was an honorable fighter, and the honor and being an honorable fighter meant more than his nation, meant more than the Gundam fight. He just wanted to be an honorable fighter in that mix, because, like, he is the success story. he is the baby face of America, and so at that point he needs to be that. So like not a whole lot there. I mean, we might find out a little bit more about him, but a lot of this is based around like trying to tell his success story and why Neo America loves him, and it works to some extent. Like it's kind of annoying I actually found it a little annoying considering that the colony officials that he has around him are more interested in cheating just to win than actually winning. And frankly, they probably had a good enough fighter that it would have been worthwhile. But no, they decided to cheat. And the other character that we need to get into is, so Rain is basically Domon's support crew. Chibity has one himself in 4 girls. Basically, they are called, and I'm not kidding, they are called the Chibity Gals.
Oh my gosh.
You know who I'm talking about, don't you?
All those girls.
Would you be caught in an outfit like that? Like the all pink suit or the I don't even know if you could call them bikinis because they had the one piece that attached the top and the bottom. Like, I don't know what you would call that.
Just a one-piece suit.
Yeah, so would you be caught dead in any of that? Pink suit, the one-piece swimsuit.
I'm surprised they're not dressed as cheerleaders.
They really should be, right? Like if they're the Chibity Gals. And yeah, so they actually do have names. So you have Shirley, Janet, Kath, and Bunny.
Bunny.
Because of course not. Of course. You have to have one named Bunny.
Oh, and I'm surprised it doesn't have Bunny.
Yeah, she should come out like a Playboy Bunny. Oh, really. My gosh. Like in the Playboy Bunny outfit.
Now it just takes me back to the whole thing in Pokemon with Gary and his little cheerleading squad.
Yeah, that's what these 4 girls are. They are his cheerleading squad, and they are never in cheerleading outfits. I'll tell you that much right now. Bikinis? Yeah, they come out in bikinis quite a bit, but like mostly you see them in the pink suits. Like the you know what I'm talking about, right? The pink suit that Bunny was in when she got captured. So like you see that most of the time, and it's just like, really? You know, like this doesn't scream cheerleader to me. Not even the bikinis to an extent scream cheerleader to me. But that's what they are. They're Chibity's cheerleaders. Also, they maintain the Gundam, you know, like kind of thing. So, any other thoughts that we have on these 4 girls? Like, we didn't really get much of an introduction to Shirley, Janet, or Kath. We will later, but Bunny was kind of the focus. And to me, like, she's okay.
Yeah.
We'll get a little bit more later, I think, with them. And now we have to get into his Gundam, the Gundam Maxter, the American stereotype Gundam. And we've already covered the first part. Its initial appearance looks like a football player. It really does, right?
I'm surprised they did not decide to go to do like a whole fight with, you know, playing like a football type.
Or being like a grappler, a wrestler, something like that. Because like that's what tacklers in football would do. But no, they didn't do that. And even his headpiece has a football helmet. But it gets even better because he also has a surfboard. So, you know, that's not really even an American stereotype, but he has one. And I had to point this out to you because later episodes will show it. The belt around his waist with 6 shooters. So Westerns. And what's even better, and this is the part I love about Maxter so much, is the second mode, which is where the big shoulder pads come off, become boxing gloves for the Gundam itself, and then you lose the chest section and get basically the Walmart equivalent of a manly chest. How stupid was that?
Are you trying to merge like so many different things into one?
Oh, and Maxter totally. Like the funniest part is all the other Gundams that you will see, like they have one stereotype really in all of it that represents that nation. This one is a mishmash of so many things. Western, surfing, football, boxing. Oh my gosh. There's so much there.
Where's the surfing come in?
Because he has a surfboard.
Oh, I guess I must have didn't notice.
Yeah, that hoverboard that he's driving is supposed to be like a surfboard.
Oh.
So, And in fact, you'll see a couple of times in later episodes where he is using it on the water. So it's just like, okay, yeah, it's a surfboard with rockets on it.
Well, that's probably appropriate for an American trope.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, let's get into that second moment, man. Was that silly or what?
Oh, probably the mechanics who built that one were like they all
America.
Let me guess.
I want to personally put this in canon. It was built by Bandit Keith from Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged in America.
I'm surprised that when the guy had his whole spandex outfit, I'm surprised his butt did not have like an American flag.
Especially considering how many times we see Domon's ass. We haven't talked even about the mobile tray system. So that's one of the things that makes this series unique, is most Gundam series will take place, well, a lot of time will take place in the cockpits. This one, it's the mobile tray system, which is basically their equivalent of saying, okay, we need to have like these fighters in real time. So we're going to put them in skin-tight spandex that can read all of their medical vital signs, and every action that they do in real time will be done by the Gundam. Okay? Stupid. Like, from a technological point of view, there would be some lag time. But, like, just looking at that from that perspective, and also having the nice little emblems and things like that on it, like, what was your take on the mobile tray system? How silly was it to you? Especially since such emphasis is put on Domon's ass. That is Japan's ass right there, everybody.
I like America's ass better.
Well, we're not talking about Sam Porter Bridges. We're talking about Jiminy Crockett. Dang it, man. sorry, Chibity. But looks like Andrea won't be joining the Chibity gals just yet. I kind of agree with you. Like, American flags should have been plastered all over that thing.
It would probably put Captain America to shame, I'm sure.
He is kind of the Captain America of the show.
Yeah, I know.
Because he believes in American values, except in the concept of only, like, success stories from the streets. So, yeah. Domon technically beat him, but... So, he beat Mikkolo. And we should say, like, he defeated him by disqualification, which is... According to the Gundam Fight International regulations, you will hear that a lot in the series, any unit that has lost their head section is disqualified. So at that point, Nero's Gundam eliminated. He is not in the Gundam fight anymore. However, Domon didn't do that for Chibity. So Gundam Maxter is still in the fight. He did wreck an arm, but he did not destroy the head section, which is interesting. Like, you'd think that he would be wanting to destroy him so that he could advance in the Gundam fight, right? No, he basically called the fight a draw. And basically gave the Goku speech of, come back and fight me later when you're stronger.
Oh, God.
Kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, were you disappointed that he didn't end it? Or are you happy that he's decided, okay, we'll let Chibity live to America another day? I'm sorry, to America another day.
Well, I'm kind of surprised that he let him,
Yeah.
go for that one time.
So there you go. That's Roar of the Winning Punch. I wish I could say, like, I did think it was kind of funny that, before the Gundam fight, they had a title fight between him and another boxer, and Domon knocks out the boxer that's supposed to have these thunderous abs. And, like, he's supposed to be this boxer that can be knocked out by a stomach punch, and Domon does it. And comes out in boxing trunks to fight. I love that concept.
I love that whole fight where
he had an orange robe and green trunks. Oh my gosh!
I love that whole ring fight between the two, and they're
Oh geez. Okay, so final review of Roar of the Winning Punch. I'm gonna give it a 3. There were things that got annoying, specifically the whole colony officials kidnapping Bunny arc. That was kind of stupid. But I get why they did that. They wanted to try and show Chibity as an honorable fighter. I'd still give it a 3 out of 5 because it was kind of painful to go through, and the title fight wasn't as interesting. It would have been better just to start with the Gundam fight. But
I go 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5. It was that much better for you?
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to explain why it was that much better for you?
Well, besides the whole buddy thing and all.
They're just going to be the bunnies, aren't they, to you?
But I thought that mech was kind of interesting for a collaboration of different things.
Yes.
And
they even fought at a football stadium.
And just the fight between the Gundam
Oh, no,
fighters
they
in
were
the
supposed
ring.
to fight at a football stadium, and then they went out to Times Square. So, sorry, I keep interrupting.
Well, I wouldn't have remembered that. And the fight between them in the ring was funny.
Yeah, because Chibity was waiting in a football field to fight Domon, but the colony officials through Bunny said Domon needed to go to Times Square, and that's where they had the trap waiting for him.
Yeah.
The trap that he literally just wasted in like seconds. That's how we know he has a beam saber. He was taking out all those mobile suits. That's the funniest part about this whole thing. You're gonna see other colony mobile suits. They are worthless compared to the Gundams.
Was that the episode with the lightsabers in that one, or was
Yes.
Okay.
Well, this is one of them. This is where it introduced that one of the weapons of Shining Gundam is what they're called beam sabers in Gundam. So, but yeah, they're basically lightsabers. So, episode 3, Beat the Dragon Gundam. Fun fact, this is actually my first ever G Gundam episode that I watched on Cartoon Network, of all places. So, this is the one I'm the most familiar with because I love it so much. Domon goes from Neo-America to Neo-China, where he is going to face Neo-China's Gundam fighter, Saisaishi. And we actually get kind of a fake out throughout the whole series because the person whom we presume is Saisaishi, who has the Dragon Gundam, is actually not him. It's another biker gang, basically. But this one's different because their bikes all come together to form a giant dragon. I don't even think the guy has a name. Oh, crap. What? Does he have a name? I don't think he does. I think he's just the biker gang leader. So, yeah, the premise here is that in order to beat the presumed Saisaishi, Domon gains the help from a little orphan kid, and that orphan kid turns out to be the actual Saisaishi, the actual Gundam fighter for Neo-China. So a couple of characters that we get introduced to, we're not going to get into the biker gang because they were so silly and stupid. Saisaishi as a character. Your thoughts on him just right off the bat, bro? Because he likes saying bro a lot. That's his basic name for Domon.
Is it the younger kid?
Yeah, the younger kid.
He was annoying as crap.
Oh my gosh, Andrea, say he's annoying. That's not good for him.
I just like he
yeah,
like
get used to this concept. Saisaishi calls Domon bro, and he calls Rain sis. And that you're gonna get used to that all the time. It's gonna be like for people who have played Final Fantasy VIII, how Raijin constantly says, you know, that's gonna be Saisai's gimmick. So yeah, so he's annoying. Explain how.
Well, he tries to act like he's very helpful, and then he throws him under the bus, like, you know.
How many times in this episode did he throw Domon under the bus?
I can't remember.
I mean, if you talk unofficially, I think it's like 3. Officially, it's twice.
Oh yeah,
because he gets Domon captured, then he releases him, and then he lets everybody know that he's escaped, kind of thing. So like that's the 2 official ones. I would say the unofficial one happens earlier in the episode, but I'll let you guys figure it out where it is. Yeah, so the purpose of Saisaishi, I should also say that, so Domon has an ulterior motive with a lot of his actions, and we'll get into that in a second for Domon's character. Chibity also has an ulterior motive, and that is to show that the American dream is an amazing thing. Saisaishi actually has something on the line here, and that is that apparently if he wins the Gundam fight, he is to restore the name of the Shaolin Temple. Because since the colonies have been in effect, a lot of the Shaolin students left to go into space. And so now the Shaolin Monastery is bupkis. It's worthless. So he also has this ulterior motive of, you know, I need to restore the Shaolin Temple. And he is also the son of the Emperor of Neo-China. So that's why he is doing this. So for such a noble endeavor, they picked a really annoying kid to do it, right? And look, you're not the only one. Saisaishi's kind of annoying overall. He has some good moments here and there, but
oh yeah, but it's
he's annoying. He's annoying as fuck.
But it's like one of those, like, here I'm gonna help you, and then you turn your back, and then you're like,
the prisoner's escaping. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I bet you'd be like,
and then of course you have the reveal of he is the actual Saisaishi. And when he came to Earth, him and the Dragon Gundam got separated, and so he had to go reclaim it from the bandits. So we got into Saisaishi, let's get into his Gundam, the Dragon Gundam.
that was a cool design.
You like that one with the stretching arms for dragons and
Oh yeah.
what did you think about the beam flags? Like where he did that whole beam, like he put down those spears and had a bunch of flags, and that was supposed to throw off Domon. Because that's actually going to be a thing for him. They're actually beams, like a lightsaber flag.
That was kind of cool
Basically. I will say that the stereotype there is like he has a lot of Chinese stereotypes, including the Chinese type dragon. So at that point, I would. This is maybe where you and I are going to agree. This Gundam was too badass to go to that character. It really was too badass to go to this character. And I should point out, Gundam fans, Dragon Gundam was pre-Ultron / Shenlong, which a lot of people from Gundam Wing remember. He also kind of borrowed the gimmick of Dragon Gundam. But no, Dragon Gundam was first in doing this, where he had the elongating arms that became dragons and also could shoot fire. I don't know if you noticed that. Like, they could actually shoot fire out of them. So, yeah. This fight also ended in a frickin' draw, but it was actually kind of a cool draw, because if Domon had finished him, Domon would have gotten finished. Because he had his ponytail, which is sharp, at his head section. And so it would have been a double kill.
True.
Basically. So this one, I will give a lot more credit than Chibity's. Because Chibity's is like, I'll fight you another time when you're stronger. This is, oh, if I kill you, you'll kill me. Well, we're boned, so we might as well call this even.
Yeah.
I actually kind of like that concept. I did like that, but we actually forgot another character analysis to do, which is Saisaishi's support crew, Zuisen and Keiyun. AKA, basically Saisaishi's dads. So these were the two monks that actually enlisted Domon to kill. For some reason, they'd never seen a picture of Saisaishi. And so they immediately assumed that the bandit was Saisaishi and ordered Domon to kill it. To kill the Dragon Gundam and eliminate Neo-China.
Oh,
but then
really?
they found out that Saisaishi was who they thought was an imposter. And yeah. And so now they're basically Saisaishi's two dads who talk together all the time.
Oh.
I have to ask you about that gimmick. So they both basically are saying the exact same thing. It's a lamer version of a Dragon Ball Z fusion character. What did you think of it?
Was
it distracting?
Probably.
No, not probably. Was it distracting for you?
I can't even remember these two guys, or at least the
faces. They're not very memorable, right? They were the two monks that were talking to Domon and asking him to take out Dragon Gundam. You don't remember what they look like at all?
No, I don't.
Okay, let me. Okay,
I need a picture to.
Really quick. Fast forward. Okay, so this is Zuisen and Keiyun. So these are the support crew of Saisaishi.
And they wanted them.
They are actually they're Shaolin monks, so they're wanting the restoration of the Shaolin Temple. Yeah, there's not a whole lot to remember from them, aside from they wanted the honor restored to the Shaolin Temple, but you know they don't really show a lot with them and Saisaishi. So I wish I could say that there was more to those characters, but there really isn't right now.
Oh yeah.
I don't like. I think we've pretty much covered all. Oh, the other thing we should cover about Saisaishi is not only is he amazing in Shaolin martial arts, he is also an amazing cook. So at that point, that's an interesting aspect because he has that walk on his back that, like, whenever he goes anywhere, he just offers to be the cook, and then he cooks amazing cooking, and he gets free room and board kind of thing. Not really an interesting gimmick for him. He was just, it's still kind of added on to the annoying aspect. But final verdict on Beat the Dragon Gundam. Where is this going to rank out of 5 for you?
I would say this is probably my 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5? Okay, and your reasoning is just because the fight, or because you didn't like Saisaishi? Was it just the fight that got it up there?
The fight was good, especially the close encounter of the.
This one actually was the first one that legitimately looked like a threat to Domon.
Yeah,
because it was martial arts against martial arts. So yeah, that was interesting. That I would give it a 4 out of 5 as well. I think it's not perfect. The whole Bandit storyline is stupid, and Zui-sen and Kaon aren't really showcased well here. But I actually do like. And they do showcase Saisaishi as being an annoying little brat, but the fight is really what sold it, and in my opinion is the greatest way that they could have done it because it makes sense. Like that's how the fight needed to end. That's how the fight needed to go. So I really liked it. 4 out of 5 for Beat the Dragon Gundam, and now we are to the last episode that we had on the DVD, episode 4, Challenge the Red Rose Knight. So from Neo-Italy to Neo-America to Neo-China, back to Neo-France. How appropriate that you brought up French fries. We go to Neo-France, where Domon challenges Neo-France's representative, Georges Desand. And he is the representative of Neo-France in the Gundam Rose. Let's get into him first. Your thoughts on Georges Desand? I wish you guys could see the face that she's making right now. She's got kind of this sour milk face. I'm like,
I am surprised he's not carrying a rose with him.
He is. You didn't see that? He has roses with him.
Oh, gosh.
Yes, he does. So I noticed that one of the things you pointed out when we were watching it was his hairdo.
Yeah, the hairdo is kind of strange.
Yeah, that big old razor sticking out. Oh my gosh, who thought that was a good thing for him? I mean, he's the typical, I guess the trope is Bishonen character. He's got longer hair. He's more effeminate looking. He's got a rose fetish kind of thing. But he is supposed to be Neo-France's knight. So he's like an honorable man. Like that's a lot of the stereotypes here of France is like Three Musketeers, honor, being an honorable knight. And this is actually, so we didn't point this out in the other 2 episodes, but we actually got landmarks this time, unlike Neo-Italy, where we had New York. We had the Statue of Liberty. For some reason, the Shining Gundam was in it. We're not sure how that happened, but if somebody can explain that to us, by the way, like you remember that, right? The Shining Gundam comes out of the Statue of Liberty. What?
Yeah. How does that?
What? And then we also got to see the Great Wall of China in the Beat the Dragon Gundam. Here, we get to see an even weirder sight. We get to see the Eiffel Tower, but it's all bent over due to disrepair, I'm guessing. Like, nobody's been taking care of it. So that's how you know you're supposed to be in Neo-France, is the toppling over, the Leaning Tower of Eiffel is basically what I like to call it at this point, is that it's just falling over. Jeez, I wish there was more that we could say about George, but there isn't anything that was given here, right? Like he's a stereotypical knightly person, very virtuous, very kind.
I mean, he seems like the type of guy that is kind of like he's so, like into himself, but at the same time he's like, oh, I'm just gonna be very honorable.
Yeah, he's very wishy-washy.
Yeah,
really, because one of the ways that you get this is in the episode he was being challenged. I don't know if we ever find out who the country was that challenged him. It doesn't really matter because he's eliminated about 2 minutes in by Domon. who's coming in to challenge Gundam Rose as well, and he eliminates the other Gundam fighter. And we don't really hear from that guy after this episode ever again. And so at that point, we don't really know what country that guy was representing. We know that his Gundam had like a scorpion motif to it, but not really a whole lot there. And that's how we get like the first honor speech from George is Domon sees this guy as no threat and just takes his sword and ignites it right in the dude's face and eliminates the other guy. So at that, like, that's the most we ever see of this other Gundam fighter. And George won't fight Domon because he killed him dishonorably, kind of thing. I mean, I kind of get that, but I think that was kind of pointless because you're supposed to win at all costs for your nation, kind of deal. And since a lot of George's character is based off of I must be a good knight for Neo-France, I think Neo-France, like Neo-America and Neo-China, they're going to want you to win so that they can lead. So, yeah, it's kind of preachy. It's kind of wishy-washy.
Yeah.
So let's get into his Gundam, the Gundam Rose. And you called out the stereotype of it right off the bat. So it's basically Napoleon Gundam. It's got the Napoleon hat. It's got the Napoleon-type military uniform. And it's got a French rapier. Just a fencing rapier. Just because.
Well, I didn't pay too much to the whole thing, but the hat was just like, that just reminds me of Napoleon.
Mm-hmm. No, it's all supposed to be like basically Napoleon Gundam. So at that point, that's the other part that's funny about this is like we're representing the guy who wanted to be the Emperor of France. Okay. No, I get it because people know Napoleon from France. So like the overall appearance of it, it's kind of cool looking to some extent. It's very basic in a weird way.
I'm surprised they didn't go into like a fencing type of duel there.
They did kind of. They did kind of a little bit.
True.
But then we find out the real secret of Neo-France's Rose Gundam, which is the Rose Bits. So I should point this out. This is actually kind of a Gundam trope where eventually the Gundams in a series will gain the ability to use what are called funnels. And funnels are basically little detachable turrets that run on their own programming that can shoot in, like they basically stay out in space and they just shoot randomly, kind of thing. The Rose Bits are basically that in this series. So he has access to these Rose Bits, right? And they can either shoot, or as we saw early on, when Domon tried to attack George and failed, it can also be used as like an explosive.
Yeah.
So it can explode. They can also make this big net that can surround the opponents and lock them down. So it was really cool in what these Rose Bits could do, but if you take the Rose Bits out of it, the Gundam's very, very basic. Like it's a fencing Gundam. That's pretty much all it is. Kind of disappointing in that regard. But the Rose Bits are basically what make this Gundam as cool as it is. Would you agree, or because you look like you're disagreeing with me on it?
No, I'm saying that's kind of cool.
No, it's basically how why it's called Gundam Rose, but also like what is special about this thing. Especially considering that there really isn't anything to George Descend aside from he's a fencer. I mean, like with Chibity, you could say he's a boxer, but he's a little bit more versatile than that. Saisaishi is skilled in Shaolin martial arts, so he's versatile, but you couldn't really say that about George unless you throw the Rose Bits into the equation. So I would say, like, of the Gundams that got introduced, like Dragon's probably my favorite, but a close second would be Gundam Rose, just because I like Maxter, but Maxter's so laughable in all of its stereotypes.
Yeah.
So the other thing that we should point out in this episode, because it dominated, was technically the support crew for George is 2 people. We didn't really get a feature of the second one, but we did the first, which is Princess Marie-Louise.
Oh my gosh.
Who was more annoying, Marie-Louise or Saisaishi? Oh, she has to think about it.
Well, I think Marie was pretty working on stupidity there or something.
Oh, jeez, really? Yeah.
It's like, are you kidding? You would want to go get yourself captured and held for ransom?
The premise of this episode is that Marie-Louise wants her crush, George, to fight for her. And so what she basically does in order to rig a fight is make it look like Domon captured her and then and basically is holding her ransom. And that's what gets Gundam Rose out to fight Domon. Except here's the funny part. George knew.
Mm-hmm.
George knew that was the case and still played into it. So who's the stupider person, George or Maria? I would dare say they're both kind of up there on the stupidometer. Because
really?
Because here's the thing: if I was the Gundam fighter of Neo France, I'd be like, Domon, I know what's going on. Could you just untie Maria Louise? I'll fight you. It's fine, but just untie Maria Louise because this is pointless. Even he kind of acknowledges, I don't care about earning your honor in this fight. I care about defeating my opponent. And that, I think to some extent kind of crushes her, but she kind of gets over it near the end of the episode. Just says like, win the championship for my sake. First of all, she's 14.
I thought she was younger.
I thought she was younger too, but the Wikipedia actually says she's 14.
Oh, okay.
I thought she was 10. But
I know, that's why.
Yeah, she's 14. George is probably in his 20s at this point. So, yeah, that romance ain't going to work out.
Oh, especially the goes through such great lengths. I mean, what would she do if he ended up losing?
Mourn his death? I don't know. Well, mourn his loss, roughly. I don't want to say death because, like, the head section doesn't kill the pilot, but
no, but
yeah,
they're eliminated from the.
Yeah, and that would be her fault. I don't even think she thought about that because she was so confident in George's win that. Yeah, and by the way, spoiler alert, it ends in another draw. But, yeah, so I don't think Maria thought that far ahead, honestly. Like, what happens if George loses? And he's eliminated, and I just cost my country's role in, or my country's chance at the Gundam fight. I don't think she thought that far ahead.
He'd be like, this is all your fault.
He could totally go that way. I don't think he would have. I think that he's such an honorable knight. He would just accept his defeat and all that. But
I can't believe Doma was like, okay, I'll go into this.
That was the best part about this whole. He willingly went into this to get a fight with George. So much so that when Rain disagreed with them, they locked her in the bathroom. Oh my gosh. This is how much of a wet blanket she is right now to a lot of people. She got locked in the bathroom. She gets out, but because she is the mechanic, so she knows how to unlock, digitally locked doors. But just okay, you can't stand up to Domon in the slightest. He'll just throw you somewhere and make sure you don't get.
I can't remember if she said anything about her. You're fine in there or something.
Yeah, she's like she has all the facilities she needs.
Oh yeah.
How about food? I don't think people care, like, maybe celebrities do, but I don't think people put refrigerators in their bathroom, all right?
Well, I'm pretty sure, like, the people are like, There
wasn't a shower in there, so at least not that we could see. She couldn't bathe herself.
No.
All the facilities she'd need, huh? That's very princess-like of you. How you really didn't think that out.
Jeez, I wonder if her bathroom has more facilities than that.
Yeah. What's even, and I also want to point out another big plot hole in this episode. So when she comes up with this plan, she's taking her lipstick and drawing a G on the mirror. And then they show, like, when she puts the plan in motion, she changed the G into a J for Japan. And it's written so that U.S. audience can understand what it is. And she also wrote a ransom note. But then, the reason that George says he knows that it wasn't Domon that captured her is because he can't command the honorable French language as well. Except they're all speaking English, and they're having a so let's just say for the sake of argument, they're all speaking French. They're holding a conversation with George.
Mm-hmm.
I think that means that they have enough control over the honorable French language.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't think about this at all. Oh, the other thing that I also love, Maria didn't think to bring extra money when getting kidnapped. She goes to a coffee shop and just go talk to the embassy and they'll pay me and they'll pay you. And she just expected the waiter to accept that. No, the waiter gotta get paid. Oh my god. There's so much about Maria's plan that she didn't really think about.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god. She is, like, in my opinion, she is the most annoying supporting crew of all of them. Because at least with the Chimney Gals, there's endearing aspects. We'll find those out later. Zuisen and Kayun, there are comedic moments with them that make them work. Marie Louise, every time she's on character, I slap my face. And it's cringe every time. So, like, when you say Sai Sai, she's annoying, I'm like, oh, tip of the iceberg, my friend. We should talk about the other support character, but not too much. The second support character is George's butler, Raymond, who we saw a little bit in this episode, but not really a whole lot of explanation happened. So I think we'll leave it at that. So the butler and the princess are his support crew. Well, that makes sense for the night. There you go. And again, we should say this episode also ended in a draw because of Maria's actions. George ends up in a very compromising position, and Domon could end it, but decides not to. So that's 3 that he could have eliminated that he didn't. Now, I get it, main characters, but, like, Neo Japan's got to be pretty pissed with him right now, because his record right now is 1 win and 3 draws. I think the Neo Japan government would be really pissed at him right now. In fact, we actually get to see that when he's talking to a Neo Japan representative, and he's already getting mad at him about the Neo America draw, and I think even Neo China.
Yeah, but didn't even George say, go ahead and finish me?
Yeah, he did say go ahead and finish me, but Domon said no. Doing the usual of come back and fight me when you're stronger kind of thing, or come back when it's a more honorable fight kind of thing, because the way that he loses is that the Leaning Tower of Eiffel starts falling again, and George tries to hold it up so that Marie Louise won't get killed. And that's how he gets into his compromising position where Domon could have finished him but doesn't. So, I mean, like, that's cool, but to the Neo Japan government, Domon's probably looking very incompetent right now, is all I'm saying. So final score on Challenge the Red Rose Knights. I'm going to give this one a 3. Because, like, the fight is cool, but it's not enough to redeem all of the stupidity from Maria Louise.
I would go a 3 as well.
Yeah, Maria she kind of killed the episode in a way. Even the Gundam fighter that lost, who tries to kidnap her while she's being kidnapped, that was so stupid. Because Domon even beats the crap out of him again. It's like, oh, you didn't get enough the first time? Okay, well, I'll just go ahead and kick your ass now. For reals. Instead of just impaling your head section.
Well, hopefully the next time they come across each other, she won't be there. To make him feel sorry for...
I wish I could tell you yes, but she is going to show up again.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, buddy.
Well, hopefully she ain't going to be doing another insert.
She doesn't do another kidnapping deal, but she is there to be kind of George's cheerleader.
Oh, yeah.
So that's definitely going to happen. The cool part is from here, she's not really part of the support crew. It's more the butler, Raymond, and in my opinion, Raymond is a better character. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. We have one more country, I think, that initially gets introduced. Then we get a ton of backstory. So there's a lot of stuff that isn't here, and we'll kind of wrap up with this. Domon defeats people and sends that picture that he's showing around to people of
that one picture
guy.
that was like,
have you ever seen this man? and all of them have said no. So this is like his ulterior motive. He has to find this person.
Is that his dad?
I'm not saying.
It's gotta be, because you see a kid on it, and
You guys heard it here. Her theory is that it's his dad. So give your reason as to why you think it's his dad.
Well, because the picture also has a kid sitting on, but you don't see the face, so you're gonna be like, well,
you see the guy's face, but you don't see the kid's face.
Yeah,
I think it's cut off.
Yeah, it like that part is torn off or something.
Yeah.
So it makes you kind of jump to I wonder if that's like his father, and his father got disappeared.
Also the picture looks kind of old.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, it like we're living in the future, and right now we have color pictures, but this one is done in like the old school 1910s yellowish kind of deal. I get it. It's the animators trying to make the picture look old, but it's like, oh, well, I guess they've been living forever. Okay, so you think it's his dad, and you do have evidence to support that. Mm-hmm. So. And even the Neo Japan representative says that there may be consequences for your father. So who knows? You'll have to find out on the next episode when we take on another 4 to 5 episodes of Mobile Fighter G Gundam. If you guys loved this episode, make sure to like it and share it around. Because here's the thing. This is going up on the RSS feed, and whether or not this stays on YouTube is going to be up to you guys. If it gets enough reception on YouTube, I might consider keeping it there, as some of you have asked. But if it doesn't, it's going to the RSS feed, and after a while, it's going to leave YouTube, and it's only going to be on the RSS feed. So make sure to be able to go and do that. Support my YouTube channel, Drak2326, as well as support the Geek News RSS feed, which is geekynro.libsyn.com. And if you want to be able to specifically ask us questions about what we thought about certain moments in these episodes, you can reach me on Twitter at Drak2326, and you can reach Andrea at AMS Mickelson, all lowercase. So you guys can ask about, does she really find Sai Sai Shi more annoying than Maria Louise? You can find out. No, it's not the case at all. So that's going to go ahead and do it for us. Thank you so much, Andrea, for joining me on this. We will be back next time with even more analysis on the episodes of G Gundam. So in the meantime, you guys have a good day and take care.
Have a good day, everybody.